since Miami.
Fernando.
Like they played it after the game while everyone was on the field with the confetti. They blasted Fernando. And it was pretty cool to see him holding the trophy, listening to Fernando.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Draft Digest. The sickest NFL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Everybody, welcome into the Sick Podcast, Draft Digest, wherever, whenever you may be listening. John Vogel, Emily Van Buskirk, fresh off the national championship. Emily made it down there to Miami for it. What a fun week she had. There were some things that happened in Miami when you were down there this weekend that were pretty wild, but we won't get into all that. This is a football podcast. I was about to be like, yeah, there's some famous people there while you were there. Causing all kinds of problems. But here we are. The college season's officially over, and I'm happy to get into some prospect talk. We are now pretty much full-fledged into draft season. 3 NFL games left on the slate, and then football's done until August, unless you are a UFL fan.
Which we are, I think, on this podcast for sure. Okay. Well, let me jump in and just say I got to give flowers and props to the college football playoff because they do a phenomenal job. I've been to the last, I want to say 6, maybe 7 national championships in so many different cities. And each year they do something different. They highlight the culture. Miami's a pretty, I think, easy one to kind of play up because there's a lot of great food. There's a lot of good culture. There's a lot of good music. You have the beach, the beautiful beaches, like all kinds of stuff. So the CFP did a great job highlighting all those things, from the events around the city to the concerts that they had on the beach that were free to the public, which Kim and I were able to attend the first night, it was awesome. And then, just what they do I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for media. They do an incredible job with getting us where we need to go, putting on a great media day where we're able to talk to all these players, and just like the hospitality, they called it Club CFP this year. And it was so good. The food was phenomenal. Snacks, any snack you could ever think of. There's a huge wall. You can just get whatever you want. They do a really good job taking care of media because it is a long 4 days that we're there. As you can tell, my voice completely gone. It's a lot. There's a lot going on and you're just doing a lot of things. So they really take care of us. So I figured I would start at Media Day, which was really, really fun. I don't know if you saw any of the clips of it, but...
Oh, yes. Yes,
okay.
I saw many clips.
I'm sure you saw a lot of the player clips, which is what you were focused on. But they also had some interesting celebrities, I guess, quote unquote, that were roaming around. Now, I don't know the name of this kid. I should have Googled it. But there is a guy on the internet who catches marshmallows in his mouth. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay, I'm going to have to look him up. He is, okay, yeah. So his name is Shane Boyle. I'm sure listeners out there know who he is. I didn't know. He's very much a bro. I guess he's a football fan, but he was wandering around Media Day throwing marshmallows into players' mouths and they were catching them. And it was kind of like, it's probably how people feel when we bring Joey and they're like, what is Joey Chestnut doing here? That was kind of what it was. But there was also a very famous TikTok guy who does all these parodies of college football and pro football. You may or may not have seen him, but he did one right before that was about Indiana beating Oregon, and he like plays each of the schools, and then like Oregon goes under the table or to hide, or Alabama goes on. Anyways, this guy, I can't remember his name, and I should have looked these things up like an idiot, but he was there. It was kind of cool to see the players come up to him and be like, we watch your videos, we think it's so funny. I was really hoping he would get to interact with Kurt Signetti because he's parodied him, but I don't think that got to happen. But so aside from all the player clips and stuff, there was stuff like that going on, which was really neat to see and kind of gave a little bit of comedic relief because these guys, we asked a lot of the guys, does this get old? Does this get tiring for you? Because they have to do 40 minutes where anybody can come up and talk to them for any amount of time. They have to be on camera, not on camera, whatever. I mean, it was kind of funny. Some of them are really into it. Some of them do not like to do it. You can very much tell. Some of them are left alone completely. You know, the O linemen, the D linemen, they're usually just sitting there. Special teams guys kind of just sitting there. But John was nice enough to give Kim and I some questions to some guys, and we were able. Did you get to see the answer that Rueben Bain gave to the question about his arm?
No, because you mentioned it right before we went on, and I forgot to ask you about it. I also wasn't just trying not to bother you too much because I knew that there was a lot going on and things are
you
crazy.
You can always bother me with stuff like that because it gives me kind of something to do. It's a very overwhelming scenario where they have the whole team and all the coaches on the floor, and you kind of got to just like. So you giving us the guidance to ask these guys some questions was awesome because I really had one objective going. Well, two objectives. I was going to ask Fernando Mendoza about the Calgorithm, which I did, and that ended up going kind of viral because Cal loved it. And then I wanted to ask Riley Nowakowski who his favorite fullback was and like why fullbacks are important to football. And I was able to accomplish those two tasks. But on top of that, you gave us Bain to talk to, Hosea, who I can't remember his last name.
Wheeler.
Yeah. So we were able to talk about him, about his journey, through small ball, JUCO, and like what it means to be there. So he was he said he wanted to come on the podcast. He was great. I absolutely adored him.
Yeah, we're going to get him on. Absolutely.
Yeah. I connected with him on Instagram after, and I was like, you got to come on. And then Alex Bauman, I don't know if we talked much about him prior, but he went to Tulane. He was actually the guy that caught the touchdown pass in the Cotton Bowl against USC as a freshman, and then was back in the Cotton Bowl with Miami. Incredible human being. And so we were able to catch up with him a little bit about his journey. But the one that I was really proud that Kim and I got is one that you were looking for. We were able to interview CJ Daniels, and we were able to ask him, you wanted to know what the difference of playing at LSU last year versus playing at Miami this year, like what the biggest difference is. Now, that he did say he got asked that question quite a bit, and I'm sure it comes up a lot because at its core, you'd probably think like, oh, it's a huge difference, right? But maybe not. So we were able to catch him with that one. He told me initially he doesn't like the media, so he wasn't like super thrilled to talk to us, but he did answer it. And here's what he told us about the differences between the two schools.
I really think it's the people for me.
Okay.
Just the genuine care that these coaches have, that this staff have, and really the plan that they have for me.
Okay.
It was just different from here in any other school, man. They wanted me to come in and lead. They wanted me to contribute. They wanted me to show my skill set, and that was something that I had to take advantage of.
Okay.
So that's why I'm here.
So I guess he didn't feel like LSU took advantage of his skill set, which is interesting.
Well, yes. Yeah, I would actually kind of agree with that. Okay. And if you look at what LSU's receivers were last year, you had three different guys that they were trying to feature in a lot of different ways, but to one specific way. And CJ is kind of one of these overall good, solid players, right? Mm-hmm. Where everything that you when you take the scouting report together, and like this week, I've been condensing notes, from the whole entire season on guys.
Yeah.
And, there's going to be 6-7 games that I've watched these guys in. And there's going to be notes that are going to be the same or very similar. And so it's kind of comparing those and seeing what the common, points are. And then you have a report. But with him, he's one of these guys, it's very hard to find a weakness where he might not necessarily be great at something, Yeah. But he does a lot of different things. So you saw that in week 1 against Notre Dame. When he went up, he can make the spectacular catches, caught the touchdown, ended up being the game winner for Miami. And then, he's been a contributor, pretty much the balance to Malachi Toney, the freshman, number 10, who absolutely exploded on the scene. Wow. So when the defense locks into Toney, you've got Daniels ripping over the middle. He's going to be a really good intermediate number 2 type receiver, I think, at the next level.
And honestly, he has the kind of mentality. Like he had a little bit of swagger. He was a little bit cocky, but like in a good way. And he really had his priorities. He was like, I don't mess with the media. I don't mess with like what people are trying to ask me or say about me. He's like, I just want to showcase my talent and I want to do what I was put here to do. So I actually enjoyed talking to him, and we did talk to him. I was like, if someone could ask you a question and you want to answer. It's not about football. What would you want people to ask you? And he was like, I would love people to ask me about my hobbies outside of football. And like, I think we asked him, I wish I could see the full transcription, but we asked him about what kind of like wings, like what's his favorite wing? Because he's from Atlanta. And so, that's a big wing city. And he said, this was really funny, which a lot of times you get hot wings, just like straight up buffalo or like hot wings, whatever. But he was like, I will get any wing and just put lemon pepper on it. So it always ends up lemon pepper, but he'll put it on anything. He's like, I'll get any flavor.
I can agree to that 100%.
Okay.
Lemon pepper on wings is the GOAT.
I like
Absolutely.
lemon pepper too, but imagine that you got some other flavor and then just put lemon pepper on it. I don't know how that translates.
Hey, they got the wet stuff, they got the dry rub. I mean, if you think about some garlic parmesan or some buffalo wings and just throwing a little lemon pepper on it, ooh, it takes it to the next level. We
did ask a lot of guys about wings, so that was kind of fun. But now this is making me want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings after this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wait a minute. But I do want to see if I can find well, why don't you transition? I know you want to talk a little bit about Bain and his potential. Yeah. I mean, obviously everybody's been talking about him. Even my husband, who doesn't know that many guys, especially edge rushers or line guys, he commented on his play in the national championship. He was incredible. So I'm going to look for this quote that he said about his shortage of arm reach. That's what you had me ask him about, which it's a really tough question to phrase to somebody about their shortcomings.
Hey! I gave you some guidance on how to ask it. Did I not? You got to give me some credit here.
You did, but I can tell you he didn't really know how to. I was hoping he might get sassy and be like, "Yeah, people say this, like blah blah blah."
That's what I was hoping for too.
Yeah, no, and he was up on the podium, so it was a little bit harder. But what's your scouting report looking like on him?
I mean, I love this guy. It's him and Caleb Downs are like fighting to be my favorite prospects in this class, which is pretty wild when you think about, I love edge rushers and I got a safety. That's like, debating. I'm debating about whether I like him. I like Caleb Downs that much.
Yeah.
But, Dane Brugler brought up the arm length. I guess it was about 2 weeks ago. He got verified measurements. Not sure where he got them from, where they were from, but Dane's on top of all this all the time. And they came out at 30 7/8, which is very short for a defensive end. In fact, it would be unprecedented to have a defensive end this big, this highly projected to have arms that short. So this is kind of unknown territory that we're bridging into. But the thing about him is when you watch him get into his pass rush, he is incredibly savvy with the way that he sets himself up to attack and the pocket. And one of the things that I had learned a couple of years ago, it wasn't really, I'd heard the terms before, but I didn't really understand what they meant until I was watching Trayvon Walker when he's coming out of Georgia, the first overall pick to the Jaguars took in 22. And his upper and lower body's married. It's totally in sync. Okay. There's a lot of guys that you see, they might have a really great feet and they set themselves up fairly well with that, but they don't understand how to use their hands. You might see guys that do it the other ways. Hey, they could win with their hands, but if they'd have their feet in the right position, they could win so many more reps. He's just natural at it to the point where it's uncoachable. With the way
they asked him about his grip strength test. Mm-hmm. Do you like pay any attention to that kind of metric?
Not usually, but shoot it, spread it out.
He said it was 187 on, I don't know which hand it says, but 187 was the grip strength test.
That's pretty phenomenal, actually.
Is it because they said Carson was 159.6? So interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I've never really seen that.
So it measures. It's like the weight that you crush something at. So essentially, he's putting almost 200 pounds of force on his grip when he fully uses.
That matters. I would think
it's pretty phenomenal. But that's the thing is like when you got a guy that typically has shorter arms like that, usually that shows up on tape, and And there's notes that I have in the year where he's impacting the pocket through a block, using length. So it doesn't show up on tape, not normally. And then his ability as a run defender is absolutely phenomenal. I think you didn't do the Thanksgiving episode. I did that one solo, but I quite literally started it with, things that we're thankful for, and Rueben Bain was one of them. Again, I'm thankful for him because he is such a fun prospect to talk about. People were throwing, hey, what's the comp? Who do you think this guy reminds you of? And I kind of went with a little bit of a throwback with Robert Mathis.
Okay.
Played on the other side of Dwight Freeney for, he's the Colts all-time leader in sacks. I think he's got 132 or 133 with them.
I think the throwback works for him because he's a little bit out of his time. And when you talk to him, he's kind of an old soul, in my opinion. Like, people were asking him, what do you listen to, before the game? And he straight up, you would never guess this, but he said gospel music. He listens to gospel music before the game to get himself in the right mindset. And then people
who else used to do that?
Who?
Ray Lewis, believe it or not.
I did not know that. But that's what I'm saying is he very much feels like a throwback. The way, not only the way he plays, but kind of who he is as a person. And that was really what I got out of my conversations with him last week.
One of the things too, I think that there's a lot of talk about with him is he going to play on the outside or is he going to be an inside guy? And I think he's going to do both. I think you're going to see him in certain passing, pass rush downs. He'll be on the outside. On run stuffing plays, run stuffing downs, he'll be on the inside because he's so valuable as a run defender and he's so technically gifted as a pass rusher. I think that you're going to see him do both. Yeah. And very much in the mold of a Aaron Donald, and I don't want to use that lightly.
Yeah.
Donald had that flexibility where you were able to move him around. Now he's also a little bit smaller, I think, than Bain. Maybe at least in stature, but very similar in the way that you're going to be able to use this guy. And I think anybody who gets him early, they're not going to regret it. Yeah,
I like that. He was definitely one of my favorites that we talked to. So aside from any other obvious, he was one of the most talked about, aside from Fernando Mendoza and all that. I think Rueben Bain's name was mentioned the most in everything that I've heard recap-wise as far as impressive play. But what did you have a few others draft prospect-wise that came out of the game Monday night that really impressed you, maybe really raised their stock?
Yeah, let's go start with Indiana, and we'll come back to Miami. D'Angelo Pons, corner number 5, played phenomenally well. And he's played really well all year. He's been a very good player, really, since he was a freshman at James Madison. But he really the thing that everybody was kind of worried about with him is the size. He's 5'9", 175. I don't think he's even 5'9". So he's a smaller guy, but he plays so big, Yeah. And there's that play, I think it was in the first quarter. He's on the boundary. He comes off a block, comes down, and tackles Mark Fletcher in space. And Mark Fletcher's no little guy. He's 230 pounds, and he runs people over. He couldn't run over D'Angelo Pond. And that was one of those plays that was like, okay, that solidifies it. I've seen it all year, but now this guy's been a beast, in space like this, going over people. He's not going over Ponds. Ponds has some real play strength. He's very capable of man coverage, very twitchy, reactive athlete. And if you don't feel comfortable putting him on the boundary, you've got a very strong slot corner at the next level. That's a guy that I would say, pending testing, because you never know. I think he'll be fine, but you never know. This guy is solidified himself as a first-round pick in this class with that game.
I did see a lot of people talk about his performance being one of the best ones in the game, and then he just accepted his invite to the Senior Bowl, which is awesome.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
that'd be good. So
going down there and going to go put it on a show again.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to make him a lot of money. I think it's going to do it. The other guy, we talked to all this about Bain. Now let's talk about the guy that plays on the other side of him, Akeem Mesidor. Am I saying that right? Mesidor. Golly. This guy is probably the better edge rusher compared to Bain. And I don't mean that because Bain is so technical. Akeem is very much more a true pass rusher in the sense that he's a real defensive end. He's got the prototype size. He's got the speed rush around the outside ability, has a really nice inside counter, has the heavy hands, has all the good stuff that you want. Yeah. And bends a lot better than Bain. That's one thing that Bain doesn't do. Bain doesn't bend. And he doesn't really have to with the way he sets himself up. People are going to argue that's going to cause him problems at some point. We've seen guys be able to that are very technical. And he is right there with them. Now, Akeem, much more of a true traitsy guy. He's not going to test as well as some of these other edge rushers in this class, I don't think. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't expect to see him test as well. But he's just going to be one of these really solid edge rushers that's going to constantly be in the rotation, getting his 35 snaps a game and being consistently productive, in that mid, 8, 9, 10 sack range at his peak. And he's just going to be a good, productive player. And those are the types of guys that you take in the second and third round that when they kind of hit that third, fourth year in the league, everybody's going, how did this guy not go in the first round? And I think that's going to be Akeem.
Okay. I like that. That was not, I know the name, but I like that you pulled one that was not one I had heard as much about. So that's nice to get a little bit of a different perspective. What about, do you have another one or can I ask a question?
Go ahead and ask. That's the problem. I could talk about any of these guys. That's the problem.
Of course you can. So for me, my favorite part of the game was obviously the run game. Was there someone in the running back room that on either side that really impressed you, or maybe somebody that fell short didn't have a good game?
Mark Fletcher is going to be a good running back at the next level, right?
Yeah,
we talked about him. We talked about Pons making the tackle, right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing with Fletcher is he's a big guy. He's got speed. I think that's that touchdown run that he took from 60 something yards. I think it's the fastest I've ever seen him run.
Yeah.
So he's got speed and the power that he comes with it. It's like what we like to see with an edge rusher is the speed to power ability.
Yeah.
Well, he brings that on the offensive side. He's got speed to power. And that's one of those things that's going to make him a lot of fun. On the Indiana side, I really have always liked Roman Hemby.
Oh, yeah.
Roman Hemby was on my all underrated team this year as one of the running backs. As one of those guys that I was like, nobody's really talking about this guy. Was consistently productive in Maryland. He's got a good shot to be that late round, maybe high priority free agent, get on a roster and surprise some people, kind of like Monungai did this year. For Chicago. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time actually talking about Black, number 8, Kalon.
Oh, Kalon Black? Love.
Dude is a freak of nature with the way that he runs in between the tackles. Pure, north-south. He had that huge run on 3rd and 6 that kept that drive alive on the draw where he's just got this great short burst. And people consistently conflate short burst with speed. Those are two completely different things. Short burst is like in short areas. It's like how quickly can you accelerate? You might have short burst later in the run as opposed to earlier in the run. Yeah. Because it just depends on how you accelerate. Pure speed is like top end. How fast are you going? He's not one of these guys that's going to impress you with his top end, but that 10-yard, the 10-yard burst in his 40 when he eventually runs it is going to be very impressive. He's got that low 1.5, might even break one into 1.49 territory with just the pure acceleration that he has. So with the power that he runs with, the north-south running ability and that short burst, he's a guy that's going to get into a backfield rotation, and you're going to see him be fairly productive, I think, at the next level too.
Yeah, he did a lot of the heavy lifting because I think that was one of the things people talked about was Mendoza not carrying the ball as much as we've seen in prior games. And I mean, Black, I think he had 12 carries, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns. He really picked up, all of that. I wouldn't say slack, but he was doing most of the heavy lifting. So
a lot of people don't realize how hard it is in the NFL to have a consistent short yardage runner.
yeah,
That doesn't sound like that's a big deal. But when you
It
start
is.
thinking about all these plays that you're in fourth down and all the times that people are
Yeah.
lining up and going for it right now, very important to have a guy that's a consistent short yardage runner. That is Kalen Black.
Yeah. Did you see the video of Fletcher punching a player after the game?
See, I heard about it. I had not seen the video.
Okay.
No.
So, and obviously, this was emotional because at the end of the game, it came down to it. So it was I was on the field for the last 5 minutes. It was a very high energy situation. And I'm not condoning, you should never punch anybody, obviously, but the video looks pretty. They kept airing it and just showing it. And I was like, this poor kid, he had such a great game. And they're negating all these things they did, kind of making him out to just be a reactionary guy, whatever. But what I did hear, and I don't know if this has been confirmed or not confirmed yet, is that the player that he swung on made a comment about Fletcher's father who had passed away last year to some degree. So, you never want to say a punch is warranted, but if you're defending your father's honor, I really can't.
Yeah, because the video that I did see was right before that when he was talking to Mendoza. And
right, which he actually that was a whole other thing is he came out and waited to speak to Mendoza respectfully, behind all the media, waited to get the chance to talk to Mendoza, which showed this really stand-up guy. And then you see the juxtaposition with that moment.
It appears that whatever the altercation was happened very shortly after that.
I thought it was before, but I don't know. It was all okay. It was chaos.
It was as the end of a game like that usually is, but that was the understanding that I had, and that's kind of when I figured there was probably something like that. That's something that NFL teams will look into, and they'll make their own determinations on it.
Yeah, it just sucks because he had. You hate to see that after a game like that.
Are you say they're is this ESPN we're talking about?
I think so. I guess I would have to go look at the clip. I just saw it so many times.
I just don't watch.
Or someone
ESPN,
recorded.
man.
Yeah, it was on the broadcast because people recorded it from they just happened to catch it, right? It happened so fast. They were obviously focusing on Fletcher because of his performance. And then you see him walk over to this, I think it was a lineman, defensive lineman. Tyreek Tucker is who he punched.
Who's had some discipline problems.
So yeah, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
I will say this. The Indiana celebration was very wholesome. I'm sure, I don't know if you saw any of it, but
I turned it straight off. I wasn't going to listen to that Mendoza interview,
the speeches were wholesome. There were the moments with the family and the mom. But I will say this. Two notes from me. I did find a red vape on the field after the game on the Indiana sideline. Somebody forgot their vape, which was hilarious. I took a picture of it. And second of all, while the media was standing behind the barricade, and all the guys are up on the stage, we're kind of filming and we're just watching everything. One of the guys, he was not dressed, so he did not play in the game, but he was definitely on the field and he was part of the team, hammered, absolutely hammered. And his teammate comes over to him and he's talking to him and he's like, "You smell like liquor, like alcohol." And he kind of turns and sees me watching this interaction and also filming and realizing I'm media. Now, I would never out these kids. I would never say who it was or any of that stuff. And then he turns to him and he goes, "No, you smell like national championship," and tried to and I about died laughing. But to me, I was like, do these kids drink during the games? If they're not playing? I don't know if this is a controversial thing to talk about or it had never occurred to me ever. And maybe it's just because I'm, a rube. I don't know, but I just can't imagine that.
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
It was.
But hey, it's a national championship. You're in Miami. I mean, anything can go, right?
I know, but I feel like you would think that from Miami side, but the fact that it was Indiana was so funny.
No, Indiana. No, Indiana. Think about where that is. Bloomington, middle of nowhere, Indiana. You know what I mean?
But I'm like, where are these guys drinking on the sideline? Like, are they just sneaking it in a
Probably.
flask?
No, probably straight out of the Gatorade cooler, if I had to guess. They had a
Anyway.
special one. They had a little red mark on it. You know, that's what that red vape was.
That was one of my two funny experiences. So it was a good time. You know, it was a great game, good experience. I'm very excited to see the CFP in Vegas next year and how that's going to kind of compare, because obviously we saw the whole Michael Irvin saga and his behavior. And then at the game itself, they had DJ Khaled, Lil Uzi Vert came out. There was a really funny interaction with him, and that was because of Fernando. And then DJ Khaled was there. I got to meet Fat Joe, who's like a personal favorite of mine, which was great. They did it really well. So I'm very curious to see next year. Oh, and the other note was that Tom Brady was there, right? And Mark Davis was there, and they were scouting Fernando. So that was kind of an interesting thing to see Tom Brady in Raiders gear for the first time, like on the sideline. It was, you know, he walked right by us and we were listening to them kind of talk about it. So that was kind of interesting too. So,
well, obviously Fernandez locked himself as the first overall pick. We'll talk about that as the season goes, as the draft season continues. But let's go back to something we talked about in October. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here or anything, but this is more of an update, okay? Update. You've now witnessed 2 Indiana games.
Mm-hmm.
2 of their biggest games in program history.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen it all. Has the verdict changed on Curt Cignetti? Is he legit?
It's really, like, it's hard to say. Obviously, I am eating my words from prior episodes where I said, you know, I didn't think they were going to do it. I felt like there was going to be a catch along the way. Something was going to, they weren't going to make it, and they did. They played a hell of a game. I don't think Mendoza was overly spectacular up until he made the play of the century that they're going to make a Lifetime movie about, right? But was I overly impressed with his decision-making and his quickness against Miami's front? Not really, right? It was less hero-esque until that touchdown, you know, prior. So it was more like, okay, I was like watching him at Cal a little bit, you know, the last year he was at Cal. So that was kind of like, it felt vindicating a little bit, I guess. I don't know, to see that, like, that you can sack him. He is not immortal. Like, he is a normal person and can be sacked. Cignetti is different. I mean, every time I would be around him, he's that guy. But then you see these text messages come out from his daughter saying, you know, he can be happy. And you see him on stage. I think I caught one moment where he was smiling at the guys. They're all touching the trophy. He does scowl quite a bit. And I don't know if that's a shtick, you know, or if he's just like Mike Leach and he's dialed into the character and that's who he is and that's who he's going to be. It's hard to tell, but whatever it is, these kids would walk into fire for him. So whatever he's doing, it's obviously it's working. It was interesting what he said about the NIL not being there fully. The guys that he's been recruiting and has brought in, there's not a longevity for what he's built if the college football keeps going the way it's going. I love it personally. I think it's great to recruit JUCO guys, you know, D2, D3 guys, small ball guys. I love it because who cares about stars? Like, if you're going to get guys that'll walk through fire for you and are, you know, understand football and can be coached, I think that makes a great team. Look what they did. But in this era, is that sustainable? It isn't, in my opinion. So I don't know what's going to happen. You know, it's great for these 2 years. Maybe next year's still good because you got the residual. And Mark Cuban's going to have to give a bunch more money, obviously. But do you think this is something down the line, the model that he's built that can succeed continuously?
I think that we've seen the initial model, and that was the breakthrough stage, right? Mm-hmm. And I think Curt is going to break this into different stages. So you got the breakthrough stage. This is what they've just done. This is the breakthrough. He's built this on loyalty. He's built this on trust, and he's done it the right way from top to bottom. Most of those guys that were there at Indiana, I shouldn't say most, a lot of them played with him at James Madison.
Yes.
Now, I think what we're starting to see
Yeah.
This is the adjustment period now. Now we're going into, all right, now we sustain, right?
So he's going to have to make adjustments. And with premiums
He
on
already
tickets for
has.
quarterbacks the way they are, it's
He already has. That's the thing.
yeah. Yeah.
They are number 2 right now
I
in
saw
transfer
that.
portal rankings.
Yeah.
They've replaced the quarterback already. Josh Hoover's coming over from Texas Christian.
Which I mean, that's a whole nother
He
podcast.
in this system though, it might work.
Maybe
they've got a couple really good edge rushers that they pulled from Kansas State that I talked about week 1 or week 0 when we did this podcast. Jaquan Sanks coming over from Cincinnati, Nick Marsh coming over from Michigan State, who's probably a first-round pick next year. I mean, they're hammering the portal now.
Yeah.
And so they're all about, okay, now we sustain. Everybody knows we're here. We're not going to creep up on Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan like this. You know, hey, the Big Ten didn't know what hit them. Now they know.
But when you hit the portal like that, these are not guys that have brought with him, you know, to do and gone through battle with. These are guys that he now has to train in that way. And I don't know that's going to work the same because these aren't they're not his guys. And if you're getting them from the portal, that means they left somewhere else. Fernando was a very unique example. And I think quarterbacks in general, when it comes to the portal, it's just a little different, but I'm talking about other positions. I don't know if it's going to translate into having to, you know, grandfather in new people into a system that worked because the guys already knew it and the guys were already bought in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Curious.
We're going to find out.
He's a guy, he needs 4 years from his guys, or like at least 2 to 3. He needs that with them. I don't know how it's going to work with a guy a year. Like, I don't know if he'll get that same loyalty or that same output because they just won't understand it. They've seen what they see, but I think it's different, you know, when you're in it.
No, that's a good point that you raised. And we're going to see when this season gets going, who he's targeted, the type of people.
I'm curious. I'm very curious.
And I think we're going to find a lot of very similar results because he strikes me completely as a no-nonsense guy. And that's all the way back to his, you know, coaching philosophy videos he was taking at the University of Pennsylvania, of Indiana or California, wherever he was. Like, that's what stands to me is he's a no-nonsense guy. He is straight to the book. This is discipline that we're going to teach. You have to buy into the program. Here's how we're going to get the kids to buy in and understand. And
he's also out here being like, we don't really have the NIL money people think we do. So is that not a little bit of a deterrent to some of the top guys that you would want to get?
No,
you don't think?
No, I don't think so. I think that's a play to, you know, Mark Cuban going, hey, you gave 10 last year. Now you can give 15.
Now we need 20.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's it's more of a call to say, hey, you know, let's put up a little more money, but he's doing it in a very tactful way. I don't think that's necessarily very true because one of the things that's been highlighted this year is that Indiana does have NIL money right now.
Well, speaking of quarterback portal business, I really, before we wrap things up, wanted to touch on this Duke situation, which has escalated beyond what I think anybody thought it really would. It's a lot going on for Darian Mensah. What are your thoughts on this? I think the judge did rule that they can't block him from transferring, but he actually can't go into the portal till this is resolved. And Lord knows the courts are not quick. So I'm curious how this is going to shake out. I only started paying attention because I was texted today by Walker Eagle's brother, the San Jose State quarterback, who is taking an official visit at Duke and who would be a great fit in their program. But I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this.
Well, let's say that Duke wins the lawsuit. He can't transfer. He signed a contract, right?
Right.
Do you bring him back into that locker room? You know,
so
that's the question. That's what makes this very difficult. And I think Duke is trying to make a point with the case and allowing it to go to court like this and not trying to find some settle and to force him to stay. Is they kind of want to try to make this a poster child and say, look, you don't just get to leave whenever you want. Like,
right.
like how it has been.
But you do, because I mean the judge sided with him for this so far. So
right. So I don't know if Duke manages to pull it off or if it backfires on them. I don't know. There's another very similar case going on right now, but it's more so about eligibility with Trinidad Chambliss in Mississippi. So there's a lot, and then there was almost one with Washington and Damon Williams up there.
Yes.
So this is kind of becoming a consistent theme. But if you I talked about this over the summer, that there's a lot of schools that are starting to do these like 2-year contracts. Basically, when you come here, you're signing a 2-year deal.
You're getting an
That's the only way.
You're staying,
right.
Exactly.
And Texas Tech really started it, and a lot of schools started to adopt it because it, legally it might hold up.
It's crazy.
Just I don't think you bring them back in the locker room. I think that if you win the case, you make an example of him, and you ruin his career.
Him from the team.
You ruin his career.
Oh my God!
I think that is the intent here, and I know he's hired Darren Heitner to represent him. Darren's worked a lot of these NCAA cases. He's probably the leading expert at it.
They're trying to move up the date, but right now the hearing's scheduled for early February.
Yeah. Which the NCAA, would make some sort of an exception because he filed the paperwork in time or whatever. But by that point, everybody's going to have their quarterback situation figured out, and he's going to have nowhere to go. We don't have a second transfer portal window. So
it's just wild because you look at his Instagram, and I think it was literally just last month. I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. I want to be here at Duke. I like the example it's making. I don't like that the vindictiveness of ruining someone's career over it, but I don't know where the middle ground is. Obviously, these kids do need to understand that loyalty should count for something. You can't then go into the real world and not have any loyalty. It's not going to end well in a situation.
Well, the contract is the big thing here. Yeah. Because if you can make the contract legally hold, college is the only place right now where if you sign a contract, you don't have to fulfill your bargain of it and you still get your money. That's something that probably needs to change. And that's not, look, I'm all about being the advocate for the players, but allowing them to act like children and not fulfill the things that they say that they're going to fulfill, I think has damaging effects on it. Doesn't help anybody in the long run. I think that somebody probably has to be the example. It's unfortunate that it was Mensah. It doesn't surprise me because his whole exit from Tulane last year was very messy too.
Yeah. What's funny about it? The person that's trying to woo him away with more money is Miami, allegedly. So
yeah, I saw that too, and then they denied it or whatever. But because that would be tampering, quote unquote. But
which Miami would never do.
Michael Irvin hit him up. Hey man, I'll get you. I can't even
Michael
say
Irvin
the meme.
has no rules.
I can't even say the meme, but everybody knows it at this point. I think
he abides by zero laws. Michael Irvin.
Well, so does Ray Lewis, apparently.
It's funny because of the Manny Diaz Cristobal. It's interesting. The whole thing is so messy. Could be a reality show. It's crazy. So I don't know what's going to happen, but to your point, I do hope there's a little bit of an example made so that we can rein some of it in. But it's so wild to think of, here we are. I remember not even 5 years ago, texting guys and being like, I didn't even realize I had eligibility because I had no one giving me advice and missing out on years. But now these guys hire high-powered lawyers. They hire these guys to make sure they can squeeze every last drop out of whatever. And they're just getting better advice, which is wild.
You've got Carson Beck going down there, not in any classes.
I know.
Playing football.
I just
come on, man.
I never thought we'd be here, and we
Come
are.
on, man.
It's wild. It's the Wild West. So
wild days. And
it was a very fitting end to a very weird and unique college football season. They're going to make a movie about this. I know it, whether it's a Lifetime film or, whatever, there will be a movie about this team and what they accomplished. So I do have to give them props. It was the last 2 games I got to watch. They were incredible. They are very talented, and whatever it is that they're doing, it worked. So, congrats to Indiana.
Well, I'm sure Jimmy is ready for us to wrap this up. And so I guess we'll get into it here. That's been the Sick Podcast. We're in draft season now, folks. We can get excited. We can start to look. We got 28 of the draft slots locked into place. And we're going to come back at this next week with 30 spots in place.
Nice.
The Super Bowl ahead, and the Senior and Shrine Bowls as well. Probably have a good recap on the American Bowl, hopefully, when we come back next week with old Scott Phillips, who was on the show. From what I hear, he's doing a phenomenal job down there in Orlando. Does not surprise me. And that's going to do it for Emily Van Buskirk and myself. It's been the Sick Podcast, Draft Digest. We'll be back at it next week. Jimmy, let's go.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Draft Digest on YouTube, X, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.